Welcome, Jorge, and welcome everybody to the Elite Tennis Podcast. I am Mike Baugh, and how is you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you?
Good. So, Jorge, and you are up in Michigan, and just what's new with you? And you're up in run everything in Hope College.
Yeah, so we're up at Hope College. We're a Division III school that has a really good tennis program and amazing facilities. My real job is I'm the manager of the Do It Tennis Center, which is 6 indoor courts and also an outdoor 12-court stadium that's epic. It's got 12 courts, elevated viewing, so it's kind of like a cool, real nice little stadium. And we started our summer tennis this last Monday. So a whole bunch of new rules and procedures, but we're up and running. I got a nice sized group of about 50 kids out there this week. And so I still teach. I'm not a ton on the court. I do a lot of speaking and coach development and videos and stuff like that. But I go to work every day to a tennis club, so I still like that.
So, talking about a lot of speaking and web development stuff, one of the biggest highlights over the last couple of months is you and Mark Kovacs every Monday afternoon for about a month and a half or so shared with a lot of coaches a bunch of insights on coaching things, and that was really well received. And a lot of coaches that I've talked to said that was a big highlight for them. What spurred you all to do that, and just some of the highlights from that?
Well, both Mark and I have a lot of content and stuff that we put out for coaches. So we're often speaking at coaches conventions, and that's kind of a sweet spot. We love, coaching coaches and developing coaching content. And him and I are pretty good friends. We've collaborated on a few things before. I think he's just brilliant. He's a sports scientist. Major sports scientist, but also a lot of people don't know that he's a player. He's not just a theory guy. He played real good. Like he was like the NCAA doubles champion, Division I. He wasn't like, Division III doubles champion. This guy played on the tour for a while, and he has experience. He's worked with Francis Tiafoe and all kinds of pros, and he knows his stuff. So anything I can do with Mark, I'm excited to do it. I'm always trying to bring him in front of my followers and our coaches that follow us. So we just decided, hey, would you want to try a couple? And it was funny because generally when I do, like for my website, I have live coaches calls, and I generally get, I have 100, at most. So my Zoom thing was for 100. And then I had to upgrade to get more like 500, and I pay more for it, so quite a bit more. And then we had like 1,200 registrants. Shit, man, sorry about that swear word. We got to get like the 1,000 thing. So we were getting routinely over 1,000 registered and over 600 attending. So it was good. The format was basically, I would ask him questions and I would share a little bit, but I'd let him do most of the talking because he's the smart one.
No, it was really great. And everyone I talked to said that was really the highlight. Every Monday afternoon, they were tuning in and they were really engaged. And it was just like, even if they had to miss it, it was like, hey, did you see it? Can you take notes for me? What can you see? I've got to jump on court. Hey, can you what did I miss? And it was really good. It was really, really good stuff. So thank you for doing that for everyone.
Yeah, no problem. We're happy to do it. I think obviously we were doing it right in the thick of things where people were home, and I think that's probably a big reason why we had so many people attending. I'm not sure now everybody's kind of back to work, or most of them are. But there was we wanted to do something. Him and I was doing it right here. I'm in my home office right now. And we were doing it right here, and but it was good. And I was happy to do it. And I'll always do anything I can with Mark for sure.
So the next project that you had, I actually heard about it from Chris Michalowski, or Mick, as he's known in the industry, was this collaboration with a bunch of well-known online coaches in the industry. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So what happened was obviously when when all these clubs shut down across the country, it was a serious problem, and a lot of, I view myself primarily as a coach de- developer. This is what I like to do. If I had all my time, that's what I like to do. I love doing things that fellow coaches could learn from, and that's if I have a chance to go out and teach 30 kids in a lesson, which I enjoy doing, or if I had a chance to go out and talk to 30 coaches, I'll always choose the coaches because I know that those are my people. Plus, I also know that behind all those coaches is another couple hundred kids, so I think I can have bigger impact. So when all this stuff went down, the USTA decided, the new leader, Mike Dowse, decided, there's really three priorities they had to have, and shut everything down, just do these three things. One of them was to help clubs, another one was to help players, and the third one was to help coaches. So they formed a task force. He put one of his, higher up guys in the USTA in charge of each task force. And Scott Schultz, who is a friend of mine who works there, he was in charge of the task force for helping coaches. And he put me on it. And he put some really good people. I was happy to be on it. I was on it. Butch Staple was on it. AJ Pant was on it. Amanda Shaw, and Mickey Mall from Wilson. And at our very first meeting, I suggested, because I had, if we rewind about 3 weeks before that, I had opened up tennisreels.tv, my website, to the whole world for free for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So they could just get in there and do something. And I was already hearing through that effort a lot of people saying, hey, this is so awesome. Thank you, Jorge. It's really nice. But anything you can do to help me make money, because right now I love all the free stuff, but I got to pay some freaking bills. And I was hearing it over and over, and I understood it. So I suggested that the first thing we do as a task force was just to send out a survey. So I created it, a Google form, simple enough. And we had like 2,800 people respond. And not a big surprise, we asked them, what's the number one thing we can do to help you? Just the number one thing right now. And overwhelmingly, it was helping recoup some money. I haven't been teaching, and this is my number one concern.
Yep.
So what happened was, it was hard. It's hard to help coaches. Like a lot of people know that Wimbledon had pandemic insurance, so all those coaches got money. But we didn't have that at the U.S. Open, and the USTA can't really just write everybody a check for $5,000. So I had this idea that one of the spaces I'm in is I'm also an online coach. I have some courses I sell and all that business, but I'm not huge in that area, but I'm pretty decent in it. But all those guys are my friends. I'm kind of like the old dude that does it. And Will Hamilton and Ian and Salzenstein and Peter Freeman, they're all buddies of mine. I know them. So I had the idea of, and they're great guys. So I wanted to approach all those guys to see if they would donate anywhere from 1 to 3 of their existing courses that we could then build on a special website, like a big dashboard that would have like 30 courses, like everybody's courses. And then the idea was, well, first of all, everybody said yes. I mean, I didn't get a single person that said no. So that was awesome. I appreciate that community very much. So then now we have like 30 courses. And if you sold them individually, the retail value was over like $4,000. So we decided that we were going to put it on this dashboard, and we were going to let every pro in America sell it directly to their members, not for $4,000, but for $99. And the kicker was this: we were going to let, like if Mike, if you would have signed up, or maybe you did, I don't know, you could have sold it, and if someone bought it, the $100 goes directly to you. As a matter of fact, you collected it. We didn't even touch it. So at my club, I would set up, right on my website for people to buy it the way you normally would, however people would normally pay a pro. That's how they were doing it. And I was crossing my fingers, and we had about 430 some coaches sign up to do it. We put together a really robust course because I knew a lot of them are not online coaches and they were going to be confused. I put like a 13 video little mini course teaching the coaches, this is what you do, this is when you send the email, this is what you should say. I laid it all out for them. And amazingly, over $250,000 was raised by pros. Some of the top guy, I think, earned like $7,000.
Oh, wow. That's great.
He had like 70 people buy it at his club. Now, some people had, they were mailing just to 20 people, and other clubs, were mailing to thousands of people. But we had the course up for 1 week, and then we kind of shut it down. We used that same scarcity idea, and it was great. Over 100 or over, I think over 100 people made $1,000. And there were some killer stories too. Like one of the story, I got an email from a guy that it almost made me cry. I mean, the guy said, "Hey, I want to thank you so much for putting this together. My wife and I literally had zero money in the bank account. I now got 800 bucks, and I'm gonna go buy some groceries with this money." And I was just like, dude, it blew my mind. So anyway, it was a big project, but it was a really, really big hit. And the heroes, frankly, in my opinion, are all those online coaches that just freely gave their courses. They didn't make a penny. They didn't get the emails from all the people. They didn't get nothing other than just helping their fellow coaches.
Well, I mean, thank you to you and Ian and Jeff and Will, and I don't want to leave anyone out.
Yeah, Scott Baxter. I mean, there were so many. Gigi Fernandez. I mean, tons of people donated. I know I'm leaving people out too because there was like 17 different online coaches donated 30 courses, and it was really epic.
So right now you lead the PTM program at Hope College.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about Hope College and what you do with the PTM program?
Yeah, so actually, I'm the co-director of the PTM. I guess you could say I'm the founder because I was there when we got it going. But luckily, the college allowed me to hire one of my former students who's now he actually worked at Hope College with me before. He's a really good pro. He's a USPTA and PTR pro. And his name is Adam Ford. And Adam and I are technically co-directors.
Oh, good.
He does all the work because he's the one that I'm kind of volunteering. My big role in that project was to create the curriculum. And we're really, really proud of the curriculum. One of the things that we have going for us, I guess if we back up a second, what PTM, for those that don't know what that means, is Professional Tennis Management Program. And there's about a dozen schools now in the country that offer this. So generally the way it works is you go to a school, my school, like University of Central Florida, Ferris State, Methodist, and you get a degree. Now the degree, it depends on the school, but at Hope, we allow people to pick any degree. So if you're 18 years old and you wanted to have a business degree all your life, you can still do that. So then you add this other concentration, which is PTM. So you can kind of almost think of PTM as a minor, if you will. So how they deliver PTM at various schools depends. So the way we do it, I love because we have this indoor tennis center that has 500 members in year-round programs and a lot of revenues. So we have everything from little kids classes, red ball classes, orange ball, high performance kids, cardio tennis, USTA teams. We got it all. So our kids who are at PTM, they spend 4 hours a week in the tennis center doing one of those labs. Like each semester they can pick. Like if Mike, if you were one of my students and you were a freshman at Hope, I say, okay, what do you want to do this semester? Well, I want to work with a little kid. So you actually work with real little kids.
Oh, okay.
I'm not with you in a classroom telling you about it. You're actually doing it with real 5-year-olds. And the next semester, you might say, I want to, this little semester, my PTM internship is going to be stringing, and you'll string 50 rackets, and you can pick, private lessons, and we'll teach you how to do proper private lessons. So by the time someone gets out of there, they will have 8 of those little things. So they'll have 200 hours of training just through that. Actually 400, but then they also have paid internships in the summer, so that's another 1,200. So these kids are going to be really good. I mean, I think of me when I graduated from college and like literally the next month became a director of tennis way too early, and I learned on the fly. And then that first couple of years, I'm sure it was rough. It wasn't the smoothest, but these kids are going to have so much more, and when they're 22 years old compared to me, they're going to be miles ahead. They will have taught everything. They will have had mental toughness, fitness. They're going to get exposed to Michelle with, cardio tennis and all that fitness stuff. So they'll be exposed to Mark Kovacs. They'll be exposed to Doug Cash. They'll be exposed to me. They're definitely going to be drill masters because they all have my website with 2,000 drills. So they're coming out. We only graduated one because we're kind of new. We have really 1.5 that graduated. And the one that just graduated is doing a summer internship Denver, and already twice the guy called and was like, "Oh my gosh, this girl is amazing. She's like a 9 UTR and really good teacher." So we're excited. We're one of about 9 or 10 colleges that have it now. There's more and more interest, but it's cool, and the industry needs it. If you ever try to hire a tennis pro at a club, you'll realize there's not a lot to pick from. There's a lot of people are looking for pros, and there's not enough in the pipeline. So that's kind of why we at Hope decided to do it.
No, absolutely. And Ferris State is kind of, it's in Michigan, but it's not nearby.
So a lot of people actually wondered, because Ferris State was really the original. Schultz, my buddy at USDA, he actually started Ferris State. I don't know, a lot of people don't know that he was the godfather of PTM. He started the very first one at Ferris State. And Ferris State is still very established. They have tons of alumni because they've been at it for 30 years. And a lot of people in the beginning wondered, well, why would Michigan have Ferris State and then also give them to Hope College, which is only like an hour away? And the reason is, if you talk to Scott Schultz, and by the way, we're very collaborative. Derek up there and I, here's kids come down to our convention. We send kids up there. But initially, people were like, "Isn't that overkill?" But those two schools are so dramatically different that there's not a lot of kids, frankly, that have both those schools on their top two. So my school is really super expensive. It's a Christian school, really tough academically. Ferris State is much more affordable. So it's kind of just a different animal. And honestly, we didn't really think that we'd have. There's always a couple that might, because it's Michigan, they might want to go one way or the other. But it's not like, we're stealing a bunch of Ferris or vice versa, because some people just aren't going to go to Hope, and some people just aren't going to go to Ferris because of the school. They don't like it, or they love the other one. And then the tennis is just kind of, a byproduct.
Absolutely. So getting back, you said you were a director right out of college, but we're going to go back a little bit before that. What got Jorge Capestany into tennis in the first place?
Yeah, so I remember it's really my two friends, Ron and Ray Bentley. They were my good buddies growing up. They moved into my hometown when they were in 8th grade, and they lived down the street, and we became really good friends. We're all jocks. We played every sport possible. And back then, my entire life, I was a 3-sport athlete. I always played football, basketball, and baseball. That was just the way it was. All my friends did that. Well, here comes the Bentleys, and they play tennis. And not only that, but they're also really big football guys. They're like big, strong dudes, right? Because honestly, in 1975, when I first heard about tennis, I always thought I would have probably been the first one to say, "Oh, tennis, that's a wussy sport," But these guys are not wussies. As a matter of fact, Ray and Ron, they're probably the biggest, toughest dudes in school. They play football, basketball, and tennis. And their dad was a tennis coach, and I lived basically at their house. They were my buddies. So Ray, just to give an idea, he played in the NFL for 13 years. He went to all those Super Bowls with Buffalo, and he started. He wasn't a bench warmer. So no one was calling the tennis team a wussy, when he was on it. So they are the first ones that introduced me to tennis. And Ronnie in particular said, "We should go play." And I thought, and I went out and I hit with them. I had no form. I'm punching the ball with wrong grips and stuff. But I had fun. I could get it going back and forth. And then my freshman year in high school, played football, played basketball. And the spring came around, and I would have normally played baseball, but I decided to go out for tennis because I wanted to be with my friends. Well, I was just good enough to slime my way onto varsity, third doubles. And I played with the wrong grip, but I ran pretty well, and I was decent competitive, and we had a really good year. And I kind of got the bug. So the next year, I played football. And then in the winter, I did not play basketball because I wanted to go play indoor tennis. So I got the chance to play a little bit of indoor tennis. That's a whole story. So the next year, my sophomore year, I come back to the tennis team. I probably should have ascended to like 1 doubles based on graduation, but I was the only guy that played in the off season. So I'm actually, after the first round of tryouts, I'm number 1 singles.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not happy about it. I'm petrified that I'm 1 singles. I barely know how to play. I was so worried about playing. number one, I actually told Ronnie, my buddy, I said, this next time I play Ron Bullheim, I'm gonna make sure I lose, which I did. And then he ratted me out to his dad, with the coach, and then they made me play him again. So long story short, I did play number one singles my sophomore year, and probably won 5 matches and lost 30. Just a beating of my life, but I learned a lot. The next year, I played again in the off season. Now I'm number one again, but now I'm halfway decent. I'm pretty good actually. Had a winning record, and then my senior year I did really well. Um, but yeah, it was two friends that introduced me in junior high, and I wanted to be on the tennis team because I wanted to be with my friends. Um, and then I started going to this club, and this pro, Don Dickinson, he actually kind of changed the trajectory of my life because I was born in Havana, Cuba, and my parents immigrated, and we were sponsored by a church. So we didn't have a lot of money. And when I first went to learn about playing indoor tennis, I had no idea. I just wanted to, was it free or whatever? Excuse me. So I went to this coach, and I kind of walked in there and I said, yeah, I'm thinking about playing tennis. And he's telling me about all the lesson programs and what they cost. And internally, I'm checking out going, oh my gosh, there's just no way, I can't do this. I thought maybe I could. So I'm too embarrassed to say I don't have money. So I'm just listening to him. And, I said, okay, well, I'll let you know. And I just about walked out the door. It's a true story, Mike. He says, hey, come on back here. So I sit in his office, and he said, so tell me a little bit more about your story. And I kind of told him, and he said, well, if you can't do lessons, maybe what I'll do is I'll let you do this walk-on pass where, for $20 a month, you could use any course that's not being used. And I'm like, all right, tell me more about that. And basically he said, yeah, for $20, you can't even reserve it. You can't even reserve it 1 hour in advance. You got to literally be on site. I said, I'll take it. So I found one other dude in the similar boat to me, Chris Badgema, and him and I went to that club every day at 3 o'clock. We get there after school, and we played. There was always courts at 3, and I played the same guy, and I didn't know how to practice. We just played sets, and I probably played him 15 sets a week for like a year. Same dude. I didn't even have no variety. I didn't know anybody else. I wasn't in the lesson program, but the coach started noticing, and then we would, from 4 to 6, when all the juniors came in for practice, we would actually sit in the lobby and do our homework. And then at 6 o'clock, this is an indoor club, right? At 6 o'clock, when all the old people would come in for the permanent court times and stuff, and the junior, it always will sell out, but we'd stay there because we know sometimes people wouldn't show. So at 6 o'clock, we'd go to the court, to the front desk. Hey, is anything open? No, everybody showed up. Okay, we'd do homework again. At 7 o'clock, hey, everybody show up. Well, court 8 isn't here yet, but all right, we're taking it. Well, you got to get off if they come. But yeah, we will. And we would just slam our way onto the court using that walk-on pass. And that coach letting me do that. Later on, he ended up kind of seeing how into it I was, and he started giving me deals like, listen, if you come and you take care of the clay courts in the summer, maybe I'll let you practice with the group. And if you string some rackets, you can. So I did everything. I cleaned toilets at that club. I swept the courts. I swept the clay, because there was no way my family was going to like dish out hundreds of dollars. My dad was working 2 jobs and overtime whenever he could. So that was my way. I mean, Don Dickinson came through for me big time, because if it wasn't for a pro, saying I'm going to help this immigrant kid, I wouldn't have. I got started. He gave me my first job teaching too.
That's a great story. So where did you go to college?
Yeah, so I did go to Grand Valley State University. It's currently a Division II school. When I went there in 1980, it was NAIA. And here's the bizarre story. So my coach, by the time I'm a senior in high school, I'm one of the better players at the club. I kind of working for my lessons, right? And this coach, Don Dickinson, he was a good coach. So a lot of kids would come as me. He was Luke Jensen and Murphy Jensen's personal coach. So they're really tight. So the guy knew his stuff, right? So he was kind of the guru in our area, where all the kids from all the best high schools would go, and they were in that program, and I was one of them. Well, when we were all seniors, these buddies of mine that from different schools, but were from the same club, he approached us and he said, Grand Valley has asked me to be the tennis coach. I didn't even think about it, and I'm not inclined to do it. But before I say no, I want to know how many of you six would actually go to Grand Valley and keep the band together, and we could go over there and I'll be the coach. And we all loved it, but of course we got to check with parents and stuff. And as it turned out, a miracle, literally every one of us, all six of us, ended up going to Grand Valley.
Oh,
And
that's fantastic.
so I went to Grand Valley with all my buddies. Here's the crazy story. The I mean, we were pretty good. The guy, when us five freshmen showed up, the guy who played number one the year before did not make the top six. He was like number 7. So we had 6 people coming in better than last year's number one. So we were immediately overnight really good. And as with all the freshmen, we won the conference, we won the regionals, we went to state, went to nationals, and the trajectory of that program just went boom like this. And everybody thought, oh man, this thing is going to be a dynasty for a while now, because now other people, really good people, are saying, I want to maybe transfer there. Well, that was my freshman year. And then the next summer, I said, you know what, I gotta get better, because I'm really good, but I was like middle of that lineup or lower. And I don't want someone kicking me out of the lineup. So I was practicing, and right in the middle of that summer, we found out that Grand Valley was going to cancel men's tennis, women's tennis, golf, all these things. So I literally only played 1 year of college tennis. And I didn't transfer to another school because Grand Valley, I could afford it. It was really inexpensive. I was working teaching tennis at that time, and I was kind of paying for my own college. And I was living at home when it was 5 miles away from my house. So when that disbanded, I was crushed, and all my buddies just went to different colleges to play. But here's the one thing that I would say was good about it is I didn't. I decided to stay there because I wasn't going to get a scholarship anywhere, and but I could start. I was teaching tennis, and I could stay at home, and I could get my degree. So I stayed at home, and I didn't play those last 3 years. But I did start teaching quite a bit. By the time I was a junior in college, I was teaching 30 hours a week and going to college. So I was easily paying for it. It was super cheap back then, especially when you could stay at home. So it did jumpstart my career for teaching. So by the time I was 22, I wasn't quite as green as most 22-year-olds. I probably had thousands of hours under my belt as teaching. But man, that was a kick in the face to have my dream college team that looked so promising. And that's kind of happening now, right? A lot of schools are dropping things, and it's kind of harsh.
I believe me, my sophomore year, the University of Evansville dropped their men's tennis team on me. So I lived it too. There's a lot of us out there that have experienced it one way or another as well. So
Yeah.
We're all there. There's a lot of us out there that's experienced, whether it's coaching staff or players or friends or family or one way or another. But no, it's a tough time for everyone. But going to the next step, though, you said that you took over that director's position right out of college. Now you've had a lot of coaching experience, though, but you're still young. I mean, I know that. I mean, now it's 2020, and there's a lot of clubs that won't even look at you for a director position unless you've got gray hair.
Right.
And then there's other places that will hire somebody that's 25 to be a director. So you know what's right. So what's the story behind that?
Well, it was interesting because the guy that hired me to for that first job actually played on the tennis team. He was that senior that played number one the year before.
Nice.
Down, right? But I was friends with him. He was still on the team. We actually played doubles together. And he was a senior. So then he became the director of tennis there because our coach Don Dickinson moved to Tucson. And he did that for a couple of years. And by the time I was graduating 3 years later, he just became the manager. So he needed to replace himself as tennis director. And he called me. And I learned later, this was a kind of an interesting story of why he believed in me. Because I asked him years, I'm still real good friends with him. His name's John Corpy. And I asked him, so why would you pick me? At that time, I was a decent player. I mean, I was nowhere near the pro tour. I mean, I think the highest rating I ever had in my life was 5.5. And most of my life, I was a 5.0. And now my knees are shot. So I'm like a 0.5 or something. So I was just your regular playing club pro. Um, I didn't have a ton of. It's not like I developed a lot of good players, but here's what he said. During those college years when I was working part time at that club, what that club did is every night they had a pro assigned to a night. Okay, so Bill Worst would be on Monday night, and he could offer a class from 6 to 7:30 and 7:30 to 9. He could offer whatever he wanted. Just fill it, and you could, So if you want to do two beginner classes or high performance, whatever you think you can fill. So, and then I had one of the nights, and there was four of us. We all had our own night. I chose to do intermediate group from 6 to 7:30 and an advanced group from 7:30 to 9. These are adults, and it was up to me to fill it. And what I would do is I would sit on the phone. I mean, I would call. This is how you got people in the old days. There was no signups like online. I would call like 150 people until I got my 6 and 6 in each class. And he saw how tenacious I was, and I would sit there and I would hound people. I wouldn't pester him. I would just say, "Hey, Colin, we're gonna get it going again. You want to do it?" And I would just call and call and call. Okay, no problem. You don't want to do it? Maybe next time. And I wouldn't give up. And my classes were always filled. Even some of the more experienced pros I had the other nights didn't have full classes like me. So he remembered that. So he said, "That's who I want for my director of tennis, because that guy's going to hustle and go get it." So it wasn't so much because I was some great teacher. Back then I was pretty average, I'm sure. But it was that little extra thing, the hustle and wanting to not just have a class that had three kids in it or three adults, to have it full at 6. And I always had full classes. So I think that was what helped me, what set me apart.
So looking back on it now and through all these years, and obviously you're working with young pros, what is some of the best tips that you have for young teaching pros breaking into the industry?
Yeah, for the number one thing for sure is, well, obviously if they can do it, PTM is a no-brainer. It's a college degree anyway. So if you're going to get a college degree anyway, go to a school that has PTM and add PTM in and of itself doesn't cost a ton more. It's like basically you're going to be paying for college anyway. You might as well have this piece that has tennis. So if anybody is interested, that's a huge thing. It'll so prepare you. But the number one thing I tell people is that, I guess it's a tie for first. You got to be a lifelong learner. I'm always learning. I mean, I've gone to 31 consecutive world conferences, USPTA. I've gone to, I don't know, 20 some PTA. If there's something I can learn, I love it. It's just the way I'm wired, because I get bored easily. So if I'm doing the same drills and I don't have a new idea, I'm going to lose my mind, because I find it boring. The second thing is to get involved. You probably know Mika Ashby. She's one of my
Absolutely
coaches down there in Boca, and Mika was a perfect example. She knew she wanted to teach, and I said, if you want to do it, I can get you started. I'll teach you everything I know. I'll teach you all the things that I should have known. And she is down in Boca killing it, but she's involved, right? So I said, look, don't just teach and grind at your club. Be a part of the USPTA. Especially down there, USPTA is really strong. I meet Chuck Gill. That's who actually helped get her job. Go to the convention. When I spoke at the Florida convention, I brought Mika with me, and I announced to everybody, Mika she's a D1 player. Her UTR, I don't know what it was. She played number one singles at a D1 school. She's got a great personality. She's really good command of the court. So she's like the sweet spot of just like the perfect female pro, really young. But she did get involved. So now she's actually helping our current PTMer. She's doing an online PTM internship just for our people. And she's got Laura Bowen on there, your guys' executive director. She's got Chuck Gill on there. She's got Kyle. So our PT, and this is little Mika. She's just in the industry a couple of years, and she's kicking butt. So, but she got involved. She just, she got connected. She's serving on the board. She knows people. She's getting, her name out there. So learn, never stop learning, and always get involved. Don't just be sitting on the sidelines.
Real quick, Mika is actually a district president for her area with the USPTA Florida, and she's one of my biggest contacts with the Elevate committee, formerly U30 with USPTA Florida. So I'm actually the chair for that here in Florida, and I lean on Mika all the time, and I converse with her all the time on that. So I love having her down here. Sorry she's not up in the Midwest.
Yeah, I wish I could have kept her in the cold weather, but she got smart and went south.
I'm glad she's down there with Kyle at the Oaks, but we lean on her all the time with this. She's a great asset to have here in Florida now. So I'm glad we could steal her from you.
Yeah, she's awesome.
So next thing I want to talk about is, what was your next journey after the director program, and the next thing that you went to after that?
So, my early career teaching up here in the north, and a lot of places really, I should say just the north, but it's very typical for an indoor club, a pro at an indoor club, especially in the winter, to work a lot of hours on the court. So I would work 45 hours a week all the time, 7 days a week. It was probably stupid looking back, but that's just the way it was. My wife's a tennis teaching pro as well, so she was always with me at the club. So it wasn't like I wasn't seeing her. We didn't have our first child till she was 32 and I was 30. So those 20s, man, I taught insane amount of hours. Something interesting happened when I was young. I got kind of lucky. I developed a couple of nationally ranked gold ball winners when I was young coach. I think I was a pretty good high performance coach, but to be honest, it was a lot of luck because if these two girls didn't live near me and they, I want to have the chance. So what happens if you develop a gold ball champion, and then the second one, now everybody thinks you're the guru. So now I'm the guy in town, like my old coach was. Everybody was coming to me in West Michigan, and my ego was like, this is great. I'm a great coach. So I went all in on that. I was high performance. I went all over the place to national tournaments. Didn't have much of a life. Kind of squirrely now that I think about it, but that was my life, and that was how I, the first 20 years of my career, it was all about that. Then I had a third gold ball champion in doubles. So really, about when I was 35 to 40, right in there, I started handing off some of those duties because I was getting an opportunity to run bigger clubs, manage more pros, and I kind of liked that. And then I settled into that second phase of my career, which is like director of tennis, still teaching, but now I'm teaching 10 hours a week, and I'm training a bunch of pros, like 13 pros at full time that I had at my previous club. It was a big club. And then I started having this yearning for more drills, okay, because I think I had pretty good drills, but I would be going to these conventions, and when I went to a convention, if the presentation had the titles drills on it, I was in the front row, and sometimes I would get some good drills, but a lot of times I wouldn't get anything. Or it would say like best drills from our academy, and I'm like, yay, and I go and there's like not even one drill. And so I started coming back from these conventions thinking like, man, I didn't learn one drill or maybe just one drill. So I started asking, PTR, USPTA, I go, you guys need more drill speakers, man. I need to get some more drills. And I became kind of a pest. I'd ask them. And then finally they said, why don't you just do it? I said, well, I'll do it because you need it. But to be honest, I'm not going to learn anything if I do it because I already know my drills. So the very first thing that happened on my speaking career, because that kind of blew up, was I spoke early 2000, maybe 2002, maybe 18 years ago at the convention in Las Vegas, USPTA. And I had this drill, the title of my presentation was real great, drills, drills, drills. That was the title of it. And in my head, this is what I thought. What I liked when I was in the audience, the best thing I could see is some guy show me a drill, demonstrate it for like 3 to 5 minutes, and then move on. I don't need 28 minutes on one drill. And then show me another one. Let me just kind of get it and then move on. So that was how I decided I was going to present. So I went out there with 14 drills. I took about 3 minutes max and demonstrated. Here's why we do it. Here's how it works. Blah, 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 blah. I show it, I rotate, right? And then, okay, here's the next one. And here's the next one. And then, so that was an hour-long presentation. And after, how speakers, when you're done, some people come and say, good job. Well, I had like a whole bunch of people. And in the next hour, I got invited to 12 different conventions to speak. Can you come to Northwest? Can you come over here? And I'm like, whoa, how does that work? How do I go there? So I started speaking all over the country on drills, and that was kind of my niche. And I realized that the drills I had actually, I didn't know they were superstar drills, but they were pretty good compared to what a lot of people had. They would look hard at my drills and go, "Wow, we don't do drills like that." So a lot of it was play based, a lot of it was fun with cool names. And then, you can see my T-shirt. Then I decided, I want to do a website for tennis drills because I'm seeing so many. I think there's a need out there based on what I'm hearing and seeing when I speak. So we started tennisdrills.tv like maybe 11 years ago, and it's got over 2,000 drills now, and it has a whole section of the lab. So now we got people in 65 different countries subscribing, and we add a new drill or new content every week. So that's huge, and that's really that could be a full-time job for me. But what I do is I hire a couple people. I have one full-time guy that kind of does all the filming and does all the web work and does all the answers of the phone and the emails, because I still want to go to work at a tennis center. Now, maybe down the road, I'll do it full-time. I probably could do it full-time if I really wanted to now, but I still want to go to a club and try all my crap with real people. But yeah, tennisdrills.tv is probably the last chapter. Besides just my continually working at a club, those are my little extras, and that thing has gotten pretty big.
So, what do you think contributed the most to the website? Just the speaking, or the just the wanting to do it, or what
Yeah.
do you?
Well, I had this epiphany, when cardio tennis started. Jim Ball, former Wilson chair, president, he retired from Wilson and went to work at the TIA, Tennis Industry Association, and he actually invented cardio tennis while he was at the TIA. This is before Michelle Krause was even hired. So he approached me at a convention. If you know Jim Ball, he's type 8, right? He's like going 100 miles an hour. Hey, so he comes up to me I think at one of the booths. He goes, "Hey, you're Jorge," and I knew who he was. He's big time, right? He goes, "Hey, hi, Jim." He goes, "You're the drill guy." I go, "Well, yeah, speaking. I need you. We're doing cardio tennis. I need you to travel this summer." So he took me on a tour for 2 summers around. I don't know. Went to 7 states and 21 clubs, and he conducted the original cardio tennis workshops before Michelle was even doing it. And part of what happened in that workshop was Jim would do it in the classroom, and then we'd go out to the court, and I would take over on the court. And one of the things he wanted to do is have everybody attending demonstrate their best drill. And I thought, that's cool, because now I'm going to get to see a bunch of people's drills. And this is kind of strange, but what happened was, I don't know what the deal was, but the pros weren't ready. They were demonstrating the worst drills over and over in front of my eyes, and I'm like, wow, this is people's best drills. They're struggling to come up with decent drills. So that actual episode is the thing that because I had been thinking about pulling the trigger. It was going to be a while to take a bit of money to start the website the way I wanted it, and I said, "That's it, dude. I'm freaking doing it." So that was probably the decision point where I said, I'm doing it. And then speaking obviously helped me get a lot of exposure, and then going all over the country. Every convention needs a drills guy. I think they should have multiple drills guy. So I've been able to speak all over China and Australia, and at the Wimbledon conference, and Norway and Mexico. And it's just cool to be able to experience that. I like to travel. My wife not so much, but if I get to go to Wimbledon and speak to some pros and do drills and then hang out at Wimbledon, that's like, I'm all in for that.
Now, you're one of 10 USPTA and PTR master professionals.
Yeah.
You want to talk about
maybe 11 now? Yeah. So yeah, I think there might be 11 now. So yeah,
didn't Jay did it?
Say again?
Isn't Jay one now?
Yeah, I know the last one I knew was Daryl Lewis. When he got PTR one, he was already. So there's roughly 10 to 12, I'm pretty sure. But a lot of them. It's AJ Pant and Kirk Anderson and myself and Ken DeHart and it's all the guys that are visible and out there speaking at conventions and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, it's an honor. Those things you don't test for. You gotta. It's more like you submit for them, and it's kind of like your life's work. So, like, you don't take a test to become a master pro. You become a pro, and then over years you can apply. But it takes a while. I mean, you put a book together like 6 inches thick about all your life thing, who you coach, what you've written, programs you started, where you volunteered. And I just been around long enough that I actually had done it all, so it wasn't that hard to just document it. I don't think it makes me a better teacher necessarily. It just makes me experienced. I got a lot of experience doing a lot of different things. And for sure, those guys are pretty sharp. If you're a double master pro, you're pretty good on the court for sure.
So now you've also won Pro of the Year multiple times for both associations. You want to talk about the years that you've won that and what you've won? What was the highlights for those years?
Yeah, so I was very lucky because in our industry it's weird. We have our association, either PTR or USPTA. Most people are one or the other. Several are both. I happen to be both. But in our country, it's not the governing body that certifies and has the association like it is in basically every other country. So in our country, you have the USTA, which is the governing body, but then you have the USPTA and the PTR, which certifies the pros. So the reason I'm a member of both is because they both have education, and I'm a nut for education. So the very first one I joined actually was when I was 18. My college coach said, if you want to teach a little bit more, you got to get certified. I said, what's that? He says, go up to Ontario, and I got certified with a PTR up there. And that is something I really needed because Dennis Vandermeer himself taught it, and he actually showed us stuff. He didn't test us. He actually, for a whole week, taught us how to teach. I needed that. And then at the end, he tested us. And then a few years later, I'm teaching in the industry, and someone says, well, you also need to know about USPTA. I go, what's that? And they go, here's another one. And I go, okay, I'll do that one too. So I went for both, and I've been both for forever. And all our PTMers, people are always trying to catch me. What do you like better? I think they're both great. Obviously, they all have different strengths and different things. I tell our PTMers, do both. If they ask me which one should I join, I go try both. All my full-time pros are both. My wife is both. I'm both. Maybe in the perfect world, there would be one big one. We all join forces, and we can kick some butt and do stuff more internationally. But for now, that's not what it is. So, yeah, I was lucky to both the PTR and the USPTA named me National Pro of the Year. One in 2015 and one in 2016. I'm too old to remember, but recently. And that was an honor for sure. Being able to be recognized at that level, it's very humbling. I sometimes don't think I deserve it, but if you just stick around long enough and don't die, dude, you get some awards. That's my trick.
Get some nice hardware to put up on the mantle right behind you. So some great stuff. So Jorge, what is next for you? What is up on the horizons besides the PTM program?
Yeah, I'm still busy at my club and running the programs. That club is a busy club, especially for 6 courts. We're packed in there. I kind of have it on autopilot. I got some really good guys in place. I want to keep seeing our PTM program grow. I'm not going to put tons of hours in that because Adam's really doing the heavy lifting there. But I definitely want to be involved and make more curriculum. And also, I just want to continue the website. My website has now got, besides the 2,000 tennis drills, it has like 70 plus courses. 25 of them you can get credit if you watch it. There's a quiz, and USPTA and PTR gives you credit now. So that's fun for me to do. And I'll probably continue to speak this year. Obviously, the last 4 months, I haven't spoken anywhere, but I probably speak 12 times a year, try to keep it to that. And I enjoy it. You don't get rich speaking at tennis conventions, but I like to get in front of people, and I like to hang out. I love hanging out with fellow tennis coaches. We all have the same stories and the same heartaches and the same issues. If you listen to a pro in California and he tells you about the toughest part of his job, it's exactly the same thing as a pro in Connecticut and a pro in Michigan. You got a crazy member, or you got someone who thinks they're way better. We kind of, as a brotherhood, I like hanging with those types of people because they know what I do and I know what they do. It's just kind of like a brotherhood.
Oh, definitely. We definitely have that network, and it's great having this relationship with tennis pros, especially on social media. We kind of can talk to each other and network with each other and bounce ideas off of each other because we all have kind of the same experiences, and it's been great to know people like you and be able to talk to things and like just bounce ideas off and say, hey,
I
wait.
remember obviously you're in Florida, I'm in Michigan, so we don't get to hang that much. But I remember I was speaking down at the national campus for a 2-hour session some night, and I think you had driven over, so I appreciate you doing that. I think I spoke on strategy that night, if I recall. But yeah, I love learning, and when I go to conventions, I'll speak, but I'm also in the stands. I'm learning, and I'm still taking notes, man. I want to get some ideas and come back and share them with my own staff.
I do believe this is your strategy.
Yeah, so that actually is the inside of that strategy book is the exact same as my strategy book. That's the cover. So what happened there? I'll show you some. I had a partnership with the USPTA or with the USTA. This is the same book. This is the new cover of that book.
Yep.
But frankly, the inside is the same. That was a promotion they did, and they sent one to to a bunch of high school coaches in hopes to get them to get the word out about USPTA. I'm sorry, about PTM, and yeah, so that was a cool thing.
So no, but this, if you get your hands on maybe not this outside cover of the strategy book, but the one that Jorge has there, the tennis strategy. It's got all these. It's got the notes to coaches and professionals how to use and customize this book, and then it's got all these things on how to beat the steady baseliner, the slicer, the hacker, how to play in the wind, sun, and heat. All these tips and mental toughness selection. It is great. It's you can put it in your bag. You can take it out because it's not electronic. So it is match ready to use. Paper is still legal for matches where PDAs, you cannot use devices during your matches.
Yeah,
so,
that book was born. Yeah, that book was born because when I used to coach at tournaments, if you were my student, Mike, and you were about to play somebody, in a recipe card, I write down just two or three things. Hey, I know you're going to play this guy. He's kind of a runner pusher. Try these 2 or 3 things. And over the years, I don't know how many thousands of recipe cards. And I realized that it's the same advice. So if you're playing a runner pusher, I'd always write down the same 3 things. If you're playing a steady baseline. So then I realized that why don't I just take all these things these theories I have of how to beat the various styles, the moon ball or the steady baseliner, the aggressive baseliner, the huge forehand, or the attacker, the serve volleyer, and just put them in one place so I don't have to keep taking the freaking notes. So that's what that is. And it's meant to, I want my students to have it in their bag, and hopefully they're winning and it doesn't come out of the bag. But if they're losing and they're like, yeah, I can't get it, I don't know what the deal is, they can come out, look at the index and say, yeah, this guy seems like a steady baseliner. And then you just turn to that page and it gives you some ideas. And it's really good. But as a coach, I use it like if I have Sally and she's 14 and she's doing private lessons, I customize the book with her and I say, okay, Sally, you don't have a drop shot. It's not in your arsenal. And that here, but against 7 different styles of players, it says to use a drop shot. This is probably an issue. We got to add a drop shot. So besides all the things that they can't do, boom, there's my lesson plans with Sally for the year. So that really helped me stay on point with a lot of my students too.
So if anyone wanted to pick up this strategy guide, where can they find it?
Just Google me. The name of it is, if you just go to strategybooklet.com, strategybooklet.com. Also, I'm sure if you do Jorge Capestany book, it'll come up, but strategybooklet.com. And you can buy them. They're $14 a piece. A lot of coaches buy them, and if you get to 10, then the price drops. And if I have sometimes academies will buy hundreds of them, then the price really drops. So, but you can buy as few as one at strategybooklet.com. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jorge, thank you for spending your Thursday night with us. Pleasure speaking with you. Hopefully, I can see you soon. I knew we were going to see each other in New Orleans this year, but looks like that's not going to be the case now. But hopefully, our paths cross again, maybe sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for the invite, and thanks for all you're doing. And thanks everybody for checking in. Keep up the good work and stay safe out there. And I'll see you all soon.
All right, guys. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Stay tuned. Next week, looks like we're going to have a dual podcast. We're going to have Chris Champion and Mark Atkinson on. We're going to talk a little NJTL with those two great pros, and look forward for more great interviews with more tennis pros, and who knows who else is going to come up last minute. So going on, and Jorge, thank you again for your time, and thanks everyone for watching.
All right, guys, take care, man.